I really did try to resist the brainwashing as much as I could with my 15-year-old little brain. But that's really powerful when there's thousands of people around you and the music's playing and like the fireworks are shooting and like it's overwhelming. So I was just so sheltered that to me, like this place with all these other sheltered kids, yes, let's do it. Like those are my people. I don't know how to interact with the rest of the world. So I'm going to go to this little bubble and have my paradise. It's always about submitting to whatever authority level is above you. Doesn't matter age. And so that's part of the training, is that the training is for you to submit to whoever that authority is for the rest of your life. Not like temporarily. If you grow up queer in evangelical Christianity, like you can completely not know it. Everybody else knew I was gay. I had no idea I was gay.
Really?
Yes. I got sent to conversion therapy and I had no idea why. And then one time I asked why, and they said it was because of the way I looked at a girl. So now the way I'm looking at people is bad. So how do I fix that? Well, I just don't have friends. I just don't hang around women. So yeah, it really fucked you up because I was trying to avoid that shunning consequence, right? Because I feel like I haven't done anything wrong. I shouldn't be shunned. Because let me tell you, I was a shunner extraordinaire until it was my turn.
Ooh, wait, can we talk about that?
Let's talk about it. I didn't want to deconvert. I did not. Like for like 6 months, I like listened to every podcast. I was trying to look for any argument to stay a Christian. Remember in the meetings 20 years ago where they're talking about, we're going to take over politics, we're going to take over education, we're going to take over the media, we're going to take over every pillar of society, and we're going to remake it in, Jesus' name. So it's just like, sure, guys, rah, rah. But then they actually went and did it.
Mine is the only voice.
Wow.
What have I been doing?
Lay down my autonomy.
After that, it got very dark very quickly.
Hey guys, my name is Shalise Ansola, and this is Cults to Consciousness, where we discuss leaving high-demand religions or organizations and finding healing and independence through awareness and true individual sovereignty. If you're only listening on those podcast platforms and you want to watch in real time over on YouTube, go to Cults to Consciousness. It means so much, guys. When you interact with our posts, it's the best way to support the podcast. Liking, sharing, commenting, those words of encouragement mean so much to our guests and obviously help the show continue to grow and find more people. Today's guest, I was so excited to be connected to them from the Shiny Happy People 2 documentary, which discusses Teen Mania, and I'm so excited to get a further inside look into their life because they were a huge integral part in the eventual demise of Teen Mania because of a blog that they created. Thank you so much for joining us, Mica Ringo.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yes, of course. You are a huge integral part of this documentary. We're talking about teenagers. We're talking about exploiting them for their labor, doing some extremely questionable things, all which are exposed in this documentary. And your role in this, which I love, is you basically start this blog to give people space, kind of what we do on the show here, to give survivors an opportunity to work out what they have gone through in these situations, in these scenarios, in Teen Mania. And because of that, you were really the thing that ended up taking down Teen Mania, and now you get to talk about it more in this documentary. How has it been since the documentary has come out? It's only been like a full day.
Yeah, it's been it's surreal, to be honest. Is this my life? Like what? It's, this thing that like I always knew what the stakes were. And I've tried to explain it to people, but it's hard. I think you need a documentary. You need to see you need to see what they did to us. You need to see the environment they put us in to comprehend what we've been through and to comprehend like the level of brainwashing that our fellow citizens are under and operating from. And so I'm really thankful that I think the documentary did a pretty good job like exposing that and not just focusing on the sensationalist parts, but the behind the reason, like why we were willing to eat cat food and worms and why we were willing to roll down hills of vomit. We thought this was the path to changing the world. And so, I feel like it helps people have a little bit more compassion instead of just, like, well, why would those weirdos do that? Well, this is why.
Yeah, the footage is pretty damning. And I was speaking with Liz this morning I am shocked at how much they actually recorded of all of these torture sessions. I mean,
You
they call
know,
them what was it, stretching?
life
ESOL
transforming
was
events. Yes, ESOL
life
was the
transforming events,
emotionally
LTEs.
stretching opportunity of a lifetime. That is also a class in gaslighting for you.
Yeah.
Um, it is. It's crazy that it was so normalized that yeah, they're filming it and then they're editing it together and giving it to everybody as like a here's part of your year, here's a memento. It was just the idea that any of this was bad or wrong was just so far outside of anybody's minds that like it wasn't even it would just bounce off you. If your mind heard that, it just bounced right off.
Well, there's so much I want to get into when talking about Teen Mania, but for everybody and myself, because I'm unaware of your childhood, I think it would be great to take a step back and get an idea of how we actually got to this point.
Yeah, well, I was raised evangelical, charismatic, Christian, non-denominational church, like so raising the hands while we're doing worship, we're falling out, we're prophesying, we're doing tongues, like the whole thing. And really big into end times, getting ready for the end times, getting ready for the tribulation or, whatever. And the persecution and the martyrdom and all that was really, really heavy in my childhood. And so of course, like nothing at Team Mania would raise any alarm bells at all because I was completely already groomed into that culture. I went to
Mhm.
like youth group. I never went to public school. I spent 2 weeks in a public school in third grade and hated it. And so I went back to private school, but I mostly hated it because I didn't know how to interact with people that weren't Christian. Like I literally was like taught to be afraid of them. And so
Oh,
like
right.
as a third grader, I'm like afraid of the other third graders because they said a cuss word. Like, so I was just so sheltered that to me, like this place with all these other sheltered kids, yes, let's do it. Like those are my people. I don't know how to interact with the rest of the world. So I'm going to go to this little bubble and have my paradise, and didn't turn out, didn't turn out to be paradise.
Yeah, so it was a homeschool coalition, or was it a private school, or what was that?
Yeah, I did private school for most of my schooling, and then my last couple of years, strangely, like my junior senior year, I homeschooled, and I think a lot of that was my undiagnosed neurodivergence. I would get bored easily, and just I needed a lot more to keep me engaged, and so I actually did a really really rigorous homeschooling program, rigorous in some ways, and then just rigorous brainwashing in other ways. A Becca, if any of your listeners are familiar, like they are really strict and they are really good at indoctrinating, memorizing. Like there was so much about Jesus. We came and we brought Jesus to the Indians, and that was so great. And like just a lot of American history stuff is really reinforced in that environment. And we're a Christian nation, manifest destiny. So like just all of that stuff was in my mind. That's just like what I grew up with as reality.
So you would classify that as Christian nationalist upbringing?
Oh, 100%. 100%. The idea of like this is a Christian nation and we need to take it back for God, that was in my whole entire childhood. But like as a kid growing up, you hear it and because everybody around you is saying it's a good idea, you're like, yeah, that seems good. But you also know that like it's not realistic because the rest of the world doesn't really. You're kind of like, yeah, let's try it, but we're never really going to succeed. And now they fucking succeeded. Can I say fuck? I'm sorry, I don't know. Now that they
Yeah, that's
succeeded. And it's like, man, I did not. I mean, I was remember in the meetings 20 years ago where they're talking about we're going to take over politics, we're going to take over education, we're going to take over the media, we're going to take over every pillar of society, and we're going to remake it in Jesus' name. And it's kind of like, who are we? We're just like the nothing, marginalized people. So it's just like, sure, guys, rah rah. But then they actually went and did it, and now we got a real problem on our hands.
things are getting a little dicey. We moved to Texas, and almost immediately they changed things like making the public classrooms display the 10 Commandments, and I was like, shit, where did I move? Things are getting a little crazy out there. So I totally get that. So going back to your childhood, um, what were some of the standout moments for you? Like, what were some of the core memories that you can point to be like, "Oh, yeah, this makes sense as to why I was on this path to go to Teen Mania?"
I mean, for me, the absolute biggest reason that I ended up at Team Mania at all was my youth group went to and acquired the fire, and I did not want to go. I was very clear. I thought this was BS, and I didn't want to go. I was in ninth grade. And I remember my mom forced me to go. I didn't have a choice. And I told this story on camera, but they only showed a little part of it. But I remember Friday night, we had front row seats. And I sat like this. Because I wanted the whole worship team to know I didn't want to be there. It's not because I didn't try, like I really did try to resist the brainwashing as much as I could with my 15-year-old little brain. But that's really powerful when there's thousands of people around you and the music's playing and like the fireworks are shooting and like it's overwhelming. Like your nervous system, just everything, your emotion, just the conditioning of our body, you just go into those emotions. I was talking to somebody and they were like, they've completely deconverted and left all of this behind, but watching the documentary and hearing the altar call and the music, like they start crying because we're so conditioned into that emotion and into that, like those neurons are like wired and fired, and it's just a path that we're just so used to going on, and we just go right on it even though we don't even believe it anymore. I mean, that's just like, just shows me like how powerful our minds and our bodies are in ways that we don't recognize, but the people who are preying on us, they recognize it. They know
Oh,
what they're
yeah.
doing.
Sense memory is such a real thing.
Mhm.
I mean, religion aside, just smelling a perfume can put you back in high school,
Totally.
So, yeah, same thing when I hear the Mormon hymns or the children primary songs. I'm like, oh my gosh, I can smell the carpet on the walls just by
Yeah.
listening to that song.
Yeah.
So, of course, when you're creating an environment that is so sensory, you have, like you said, the fireworks and the rock bands and the music and the preaching, and they purposely lower the music when it's
Mhm.
time to get you to feel and to cry. And they are manufacturing spiritual experiences. And we talk about that and how it's such a great tool that high control groups use
Mhm.
to hook you, because if they can get you to a highly emotional state, a place of true surrender, if you
Mhm.
will,
Mhm.
and then give you the message that they want you to hear, that they want to permeate your brain with, it will stick. And so I always tell people, like, be careful the situations that you're at, where the situations you are in, and who's surrounding you when you're in these vulnerable states of mind, because really anything can stick and anyone can get sucked into it and become manipulated. And anyone can think that those feelings, and this happened in Mormonism all the time, they would make you feel good, or they would play a beautiful song, or someone would sing something, a musical number in church, and you would cry, and they would say, "That's a spirit."
Yes.
And then you go,
Yes.
"Oh, the church is true."
Yes.
But I have nothing to do
100%.
with that.
Yes, and then it also messes with our way of how we even read our own emotions and what our body's trying to tell us through that, because, yeah, we're putting it on this external thing, like, I felt this feeling and, "Oh, it's the Holy Spirit," or, "Oh, no, that's me." Like, that's not something external to me, and so, like, it just messes with our even ability to, like, understand our own reality.
100%. So you get sucked into this event. Did it take a while for you to be like, "Okay, I'm on board with this,"
Oh,
or
man, no, girl. When I commit to something, I go hardcore, okay? So, like, I can't remember like what they said. I think it was just, Friday night was this, and then by Saturday night it was weeping on the floor. Like, and I can't remember how I got between those, but that's what I remember happening. And when I was 15, the thing that year I think that was the world changer year, and that was the year that they did a challenge to read the Bible cover to cover in a whole year. And you would make a little pledge and you would sign your name and write a vow. And I took it I still take my word very seriously. If I say I'm gonna do something and I don't do it, it really bothers me, even if nobody else is gonna know. So if I said that and I pledged my name that I'm gonna read the Bible in a year, then I'm gonna read the Bible in a year. So I read the Bible in a year. I quit dating because I kissed dating goodbye. Here's a tip: if you find that kind of easy to do, you might be gay. And then, like,
wait, was that your experience?
that was my experience. Yes.
Okay.
It's you I think it's probably, and probably this happens, I think, for those of us who are socialized or raised as women more than with men, because the way we experience attraction, I think, is less noticeable. If you grow up queer in evangelical Christianity, like, you can completely not know it. Everybody else knew I was gay. I had no idea I was gay. No idea.
Really?
Yes. I got sent to conversion therapy and I had no idea why. I hadn't even done anything. Literally.
Really?
Yeah. And then one time I asked why, and they said it was because of the way I looked at a girl. So
Interesting.
now the way I'm looking at people is bad. So how do I fix that? Well, I just don't have friends. I just don't hang around women. Then I can't do it. I don't know what I'm doing, but whatever it is, if I'm not around women, I can't do it. So yeah, it really fucks you up.
Yeah. So that must have been a really interesting headspace to be in. Do you think that you didn't allow yourself to even consider the possibility of your sexuality because purity culture was so intense, you just weren't supposed to think about it at all? Or what do you,
I
I
think,
mean,
well,
obviously it's hard to really
yes.
look back and
No,
see.
I can tell you exactly. I can remember I can remember the moment, the very first like sexual thought about another woman came into my brain, and
Uh-huh.
I was like, "Get out of here, Satan! That's the devil." I had no concept that being gay was a legitimate thing to be.
Got it.
Being gay was deviant. It was abnormal. It was you are born straight, and if you turn from that, there's something wrong with you. There was no concept
Mhm.
of it as just being like a normal part of nature, existing in
Yeah.
every species, like, none of that. So if I feel it, and I know it's not real, it's got to be the devil just tempting me. I heard about this. It's just like, when they tell you like you're a kid, people are going to ask you ask to give you drugs. Nobody ever asked to give me drugs. But when this came up, I'd be like, yes, that's the devil tempting me with these evil sins. And so that was how I processed it. I didn't know how to process that in any other way. There was
Mhm.
literally, that was the level of knowledge I was working with.
Wow. So you actually read the Bible cover to cover.
hmm It's kind of boring in a lot of
How
parts.
I was gonna say, I've done a bunch of those read the Book of Mormon
Yeah.
challenges. I swear I was just like, I mean, I was reading it, but was I? Because I was just kind of scanning the words. Were you ingesting this information? Were you highlighting and taking notes?
I mean, yeah, I was. And, part of this is probably, I've only realized in the last year, I'm late diagnosed autistic, that part of like my, my commitment to like my word is like, well, I said I'm going to read the Bible. And like, I can't remember if it's first or second Chronicles has like, I don't know, 10 chapters of just this person begat this person begat that person begat that person. And I was like, I can't skip these. I have to read all of these.
Yeah.
I mean, so, I read it. And normally I think when people read the entire Bible cover to cover, they deconvert because it's so horrific. But like as a 15-year-old, you don't have the capacity maybe to understand when all those things have been pre-explained to you as okay. Oh, it's okay.
Mm.
They were like, raping everybody and pillaging everything because God told them to. They were the winners. They're allowed to do that or, whatever. Um, so that sort of pre-inoculated me, I think, in some ways, unfortunately.
Makes sense. Did you ever go on any of the mission trips?
You had to go on a mission trip before you attended the Honor Academy. So I went
Oh,
the summer
okay.
right before I joined. So like a month before. So I'd gone to Acquire the Fires every single year. And that was like the highlight of my year. It was like, that's what you look forward to. Like that is the most exciting event you're going to go to all year. And so like every year for all of my high school years, I was so pumped to go to that, and then you'd wear the shirts all year round and you'd listen to the music. And like, it was like, I organized a lot of my like high school life and identity, like around all of that.
Okay. So where did you go on your mission trip?
Hong Kong. We went to Hong Kong. It was 97, so it was right after the British had to give it back. And so it was really just an interesting time to be there. But it was, luckily I didn't have any super traumatic experiences from that. It was weird, but there was a lot of people that had a lot of worse trips. And luckily we weren't in an area where we weren't fed. I mean, a lot of people had really bad horror stories about like only eating peanut butter and jelly for a month and like their hair falling out and stuff like that. So I didn't have anything like
Yeah.
that. I kind of lucked out on that one.
Nothing crazy. Just putting on plays for
Just putting on
the people
plays,
in
smuggling
China.
the Bibles, the same old, same old.
Smu Hold on. You just can't casually say smuggling the Bible. What do you mean?
Well, we smuggled the Bibles, and everybody you could pick however many you want to smuggle. There was not pressure. Some people want to smuggle a lot. Some people just want to smuggle it. Some people had like secret pockets in their skirts, and then some people would put them in secret places in their bag, or they put them all different places. So if they'd get caught, some of them would get removed, but not all of them. And I wanna say, like, God, I can't swear to this, but I wanna say, like, we were all going one by one, like, not in a big group to draw attention. I'm sure we really fooled them. I remember, like, I don't know, I don't think I was very first, but I was, like, one of the first to go through the line. But also, they had just given it back, so it didn't really, like, really feel like we were in actual danger because there were a few
Uh-huh.
people that they got their Bibles taken, and it was just like, "We're gonna take these and you go on." Like when you have water in your bag at the airport, it was like that basically. Like, "Oh, you
Yeah.
can't take this." But then we went, and then we took them to, like, an actual underground Chinese church, and, like, I have pictures of it, and, met the people, and, "Here's your Bibles. Aren't you glad we brought these to you?"
Yeah. So you felt like you were making a real difference over
Oh,
there.
yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah.
I mean, the Bible is the word of God. These people don't have it, and if they don't have it, they're gonna go to hell? Hell yeah, I'm gonna bring that to you. Like, sure, this is awesome, like,
Yeah.
why wouldn't I wanna do this? And, I'm making an eternal difference. Like, sign me up on the dotted line. I'm ready. Let's do it. And they took advantage of that.
Yeah. Leaving it to the teenagers.
Yeah, they took it. They look for kids that care and they prey on that care.
Yeah.
And what really upsets me, I think, and this is only something I've really started to even think about recently, is that, like, what if all those kids that they recruited, all of us who were, like, so sincere, just, like, wanting the world to be a better place, caring about other people, what if they took all those kids and all that energy and all that passion and all that drive and released them to do something actual good in the world? Well, what would our country look like if that generation had existed instead of what we have now? We'd have a completely
Yeah.
different everything. Completely different. And we need something. the I'm not gonna say the left, 'cause right and left doesn't even exist anymore, but not right-wing religion. We need something that's not an institutional brainwashing from birth, that's equivalent to, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know exactly how to say it, but, like, we have this entire parallel society where people are born, they go only to Christian school, they interact only with Christian people, they go only to Christian churches, like, they're only playing on, like, soccer teams with other Christian kids, they're not getting exposed to anything else, they're listening only to Christian music, only, looking at Christian media, Christian books, Christian TV, Christian cartoons, Christian. And you grow up in this completely parallel society, and you might live down the street from your neighbor, but their reality and your reality could not be more different, even though you live in the same reality. You know what I mean? And so,
Mhm.
like, we're raising all these people, and they have these internal prisons that they're living in, and we don't have anything eq not equivalent, because we don't need an equivalent prison, but we don't have anything setting people free. We don't have anything where it's like, "Hey, you need some mentorship or some community, like everybody in the whole world? Instead of getting sucked into this right-wing radicalizing pipeline, here is some actual community and actual goodness and actual personal development that we have for you. Why don't you try this instead?" What do we have like that now? Nothing.
Yeah. Well, I think because it's easy for things to get culty. And so it's hard to create something that truly has good intentions, that truly is not exploiting people. And the reason that the other reality you mentioned has such a strong foothold is because they're keeping them in with manipulation and culty mindsets.
Mhm.
And so they're not going anywhere because
Right.
deconstructing that mindset would mean deconstructing their entire life and everything that you just mentioned, that world that they're in. And I think I want to be clear here and also mention that we're not, or at least for me, I can't speak for you. I'm not against people being Christian and doing Christian things. The point that we're trying to make is that when you don't have any exposure, you don't realize that you have an option. You don't realize that there's another reality that you could be a part of. And you tend to get in this echo chamber
Mhm.
where I think ultimately what happens, and we know because we've done over 200 interviews coming up on 250 here across all different types of religions and groups and organizations, that when you have a space that is so tunnel visioned and you have that behavior control, information control, thought control, emotional control, it creates an environment ripe for abuse. And
Mhm.
so things can go unnoticed, things can get pushed under the rug, things can even be encouraged. And that's what we're going to talk about with Teen Mania. And that's where the issue is. It's not that you're a Christian or not a Christian, it's that these environments are created to keep you in, to keep you tunnel visioned, to keep you only doing the things that they want you to see and do. And that's where the issue is, because then it becomes an illusion of choice. You're not actually making your own choices. They're choices with consequences. And so, of course, you're going to pick the one that seems to give you the best result or the afterlife that you've been hoping for. And so we're trying to break out of those thought prisons and expose people to other opportunities, other perspectives, and other ways of life. Would you agree?
100%. I think that you can be whatever religion you want to be for you. You cannot tell me that I deserve to go to hell because I love my girlfriend. That's where I draw the line. So, like, be a Christian all day long for yourself. But you
Yeah.
can't put your religion on somebody else. And I can't put my thing on you. I can't say, Shalice, you're gay now. You're going to be gay.
Yeah.
If you're not gay, you're going to go to hell. How do you see how stupid that is? But straight people say it to me all the time.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm not okay with. And so I think the people that really are like what Danny said, like in the show, like she's a Jesus kind of Christian. I like those Christians. Those Christians are awesome. And I think those kind of Christians don't like how Teen Mania is having them portrayed and associated. They don't think of that as real Christianity. To me, it's not about it's about high control or not high control. You can be in a religion and it's fine. But if they're controlling you, if they're implanting mind control and forcing you to act a certain way, I'm not okay with that. For anything, for any ideology, anywhere. I don't believe in gurus. I don't believe in human authority as expert. None of us know. All of us have a little piece. Nobody knows the whole thing.
Yeah. I think the thing that the documentary did really well is illustrating how these teens wanted to become involved in this and chose to, in some ways, free choice, chose to become involved because they care about other people. And that's one of the tactics that they use in grooming people and recruiting people, is saying, if you don't, you're going to be the one
Oh,
to
yeah.
blame when they go to hell. And so they're preying on the hearts of people who truly want the best for others and truly want to change the world. And then they're militarizing it, and they're making it life or death. And they're making it this huge war against this invisible evil force that is trying to take everybody down. And now you had someone who just had a good heart and empathy for others going to war, putting on these battle helmets and camouflage and rolling down hills and eating bugs and doing crazy things because they think that if they don't, someone's blood is on their hands. And so
Preach
that's what
it.
we want to talk about, is that descent into that mindset and how it can actually take you. So let's talk about when you first got to the Honor Academy and what that was like for you.
I was super excited to be at the Honor Academy. I mean, I think part of it is just anybody is excited the first time they leave home and, you get that little first taste of freedom. And so there's that element to it, right? Which is always exciting. And then you're with all these people from all around the country who have done this because they have the same passion that you do. And so it's not just like, oh, we're going to college and, oh, my major's this, my major's that, and these colleges are just what you do. Like, everybody there is like, let's do this, So there's just like an energy that's really intense and exciting. And it's not like any energy I've ever experienced anywhere else. Probably that's a good thing. But it's, at first, even though like obviously it's hard getting up at 5 a.m. and doing the corporate exercise and literally running in like freezing rain and all this kind of stuff, but at the same time, it's all exciting. So it's like, it's a roller coaster. You're up and down, up and down. And you just think, oh, well, the things that are hard, that's just hard. Everybody thinks they're hard. That's just life. Just running in freezing rain because you're supposed to that's just what you do. So there wasn't really a lot of questioning. I didn't start questioning until my second year there. And I think part of that is you have to be there long enough to see that the words are not matching the actions, because anybody can match their words to their actions for like a short term, but over months and months, the real whatever it is comes out. And so I was starting to see that like you said this thing, but then you did this thing like within the program or whatever. And that bothers me as somebody who thinks it's important to keep your word. And I started asking questions. And this did not endear me to leadership. And all of my questions have always been genuine good faith. I'm just trying to understand. I wasn't trying to cause trouble or whatever, but authoritarians do not allow questions. You can't have any questions, no matter how small they are. And so I think that was the beginning for me. My first year, I didn't have any questions. And then when I started having questions and started noticing things weren't adding up and started being depressed and started like just things were unraveling and unraveling until it got to the point where like my mental health, like I would literally be driving to town in the car with my best friend and literally just be thinking about like, oh, I could open the door and just fall out right now. And that'd probably kill me. Probably be pretty fast.
Yeah. Yeah, and to get to that point, especially when you came in so excited and so ready to do the Lord's work. And I mean, everyone who goes has the best of intentions. I imagine as a teenager, if you are choosing to spend thousands of dollars to work for free for a year of your life without, with all these rules. And I spoke to Danny and how she was kicked out just for kissing somebody. I mean, come on, there are so many things that are nearly impossible for teenagers, and they are expecting that and some.
Yes.
And so I think it's important to talk about the methods of control and how they kept everybody there. And from what I noticed in the documentary, it was the spiritual manipulation. If you don't follow the rules, it's because you're not a true warrior for God. What was the messaging you were getting to keep everybody in line?
Oh yeah, 100%. The very first week you get there it's called Gauntlet Week. They have all these different obstacle courses and exercises and team building and blah 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 that you've got to do that week. And part of it at the very end is you have to sign a commitment. You will never speak ill of Teen Mania or allow Teen Mania to be perceived in a negative light, something like that. And then the other thing is that you are signing a 1-year commitment. So once you sign that commitment, they treat it like almost like it's marriage or something like you can't go, you can't leave, even if we change things on you, even if we changed what we said we would do, even if, like, no, then you have broken your word to God. God has called you here. God wouldn't call you here and then tell you to leave, and like, you're like 17, you're like, okay, and, so there's a ton of manipulation, a ton of pressuring you into doing it. And then, well, you said you were going to do it, and so then it's like, well, no matter what you do, you feel like you've done the wrong thing. And so
Mhm.
then in that case, well, I can't trust myself, so I'm just going to do whatever you say to do. And then they've got you.
Yeah, and what happens if you voluntarily leave? Are you cut off still from everybody?
Yeah, so that's what I did. So I actually, because I was trying to avoid that shunning consequence, right? Because I feel like I haven't done anything wrong. I shouldn't be shunned. Because let me tell you, I was a shunner extraordinaire until it was my turn. I was
Ooh, wait, can we talk about that?
Yes, let's talk about it because, it didn't make the show because, not time, but Zachariah's story where he talks about watching some scrambled porn on
Mhm.
TV over Christmas for like 2 minutes of scrambled porn. I was on I was elected to the honor council. I oversaw his case. I was like, "Kick him out. Who cares?" Like, he knew, like, I was like one of the strictest people on the honor council. I was like, "Psh, out." They broke a rule, out. And I would get annoyed at the more compassionate people who would, like, want us to have a discussion about it. So, like, because when I do something, if I believe in something, I go all the way with it. I don't If I commit to something, I'm just committed, And so I felt like, well, this is truth, and it's black and white, and next, you know? And so
Yeah. Well, real quick, I was gonna say that that is such a good telltale sign of a cult is implementing black and white thinking, not having room for nuance or discussion or variance or gradients or any
not
of
even
that.
having room for nuance, but nuance is evil. Nuance is the
Oh,
devil.
wow. Yeah, that's next level. And that's one of the things that I've had to uncover and notice within myself. It was one of my guests who brought it up, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have that. I
Mhm.
haven't let go of that at all. Either I'm on the diet or I'm binging the cookies. Like there's
It's so
no room
ingrained,
for
like, you don't
yeah.
even like, these ideas, they come to us in ways but, like, before we have our logical minds, our verbal mind, before any of that is even developed, we're just like it's like by osmosis from the culture. We're just getting these ideas about ourselves and about, like, what's possible in the world, and none of them are true.
Yeah.
None of them.
Yeah. Yeah. So you're following the rules to a T, kicking people out,
Yes.
and then what?
I am the rule follower extraordinaire, man. I'm like part of it is I didn't understand why other people found the not dating thing so hard. So I was really judgmental about that because I was like, you guys just are not committed. And I interpreted my disgust for heterosexual activities as spiritual,
Uh-huh.
which I think a lot of closeted homophobes do.
Yeah. I've heard that
Ron,
actually.
um,
Wait,
um,
for real? You think Ron, the leader, the guy, the head guy at the top is gay?
Ron, if you're watching this, go suck a dick. It'll change your life.
Give
I
me a
assume you're
minute to
gonna
pick myself up off the floor.
I
That
assu
was hilarious.
I assume you're gonna edit that part out.
No, that's making the show.
Oh
Okay,
gosh.
so yeah, I've heard that before from other people we've interviewed. Actually, it was two Mormon women married complete. There was a documentary, Mormon No
My
More,
friend was
on
telling me about
them.
this. Yeah, I wanna watch it.
Yeah, they're great. And then they were like, yeah, we just thought that God loved us so much that he didn't afflict us with these feelings of wanting to date men, but they were gay.
Yeah. And there's just like we just don't even know because that's not even presented as like it's like if you don't see a color, you can't paint that color. You can't I can't come up with a color but it's the same thing with like a way of life or like a way of being in the world. Like if you've never seen it, how can you even imagine it? But that wasn't your
Yeah.
question. Sorry, what was your question?
Well, I don't know what my question was. We were talking about how you were like, I don't get why this no dating thing is so hard for
Oh,
everybody.
right, right. So I was following all of the rules and I was getting increasingly depressed and I didn't understand why because I'm at Teen Mania and I'm doing all the things. I'm in leadership now as a second year intern and that came with an entire set of guilt and responsibilities that weighed me down that were way too much for a 19-year-old. And so that was a big part of it too, but I would do everything, whatever Christian advice was there, I followed it. Like there's not anybody that followed the Bible and all that harder than I did. Like I put everything into it. And all I got was like feeling depressed and suicidal and shamed and condemned. And I'm not even doing anything bad. Like I'm not smoking, I'm not drinking, I'm not cheating anybody, I'm not anything. And so like, why? Why am I feeling this way? This doesn't make any sense. And, it wasn't until, well, at first I went to the leader's office to Dave Hawes. And because I'd already gone to every other lower level of leadership and nobody had helped me. And I said, like, this is what's going on. Like, what's the advice? What do I do? And he told me I just needed to go to church more, which was just, I mean, ridiculous. And it just something inside of me sort of broke at that moment because I just knew that that wasn't gonna work, and if anything, it was gonna make me worse. And he wasn't listening, he wasn't hearing my pain, he wasn't comprehending anything. And that was the moment that I decided to leave, but I remember specifically, like, I don't remember if it was like I asked him or told him, like, basically, like, I want to leave, but, like, I want your permission to leave, kind of, like, I don't wanna go in I don't wanna have a bad ending and be shunned, like, I'm trying to do this I'm trying to leave on good terms is what I was trying to do.
Yeah.
You can't do that. They don't allow it. So, like, he told me in that moment, like, yes, like, kind of like, "Yes, that's fine. I can agree to that," or whatever. And I was like, "Oh, okay. Phew." So I leave campus because he still only got 24 hours to leave. So I leave campus, and then later that week, I find out Dave Hawes goes up in front of the whole chapel and tells everybody that he never gives anybody permission to leave. And if they've heard that, then they're wrong. Yeah.
Oh my
And I was
gosh.
like, "Okay, I'm a race now." That's you know, and that was that.
So that was a complete rug pull moment for you.
Oh,
Did
yeah.
everyone just cut you off right then and there?
That was before, like, the age of cell phones and everything, so it was
Mhm.
more like we would keep in touch over email and stuff, and so, yeah, I would say I lost touch with everybody except one person who was my best friend at the time, and we stayed in touch for another few weeks before she was forced to not speak to me anymore, but that's a whole 'nother story.
What drives me crazy is you guys aren't children anymore. I mean, you're You're young, yes, you're not fully developed in the brain, but you are out of the house, you're over 18, and they're
But
still
they don't
saying you
it doesn't
can't they
matter.
forbid you to speak to people?
It doesn't in their mind, age doesn't matter because you're always under a hierarchy of authority in some way. And
Yeah.
so no matter what age you are, like, because Dave would say that he's under the authority of Ron, you know, and so it's always about submitting to whatever authority level is above you, doesn't
Mhm.
matter age. And so that's part of the training, is that the training is for you to submit to whoever that authority is
Mhm.
for the rest of your life, not like temporarily. Like, if you are, in this form of Christianity, like, a lot of parents expect their children to, like, continue submitting to them, like, for their entire, like, until the parents are dead. And so, like, how do you ever develop and become your own person? They
Yeah.
don't want you to do that. That's not in their plan.
So, this internship, you did 2 full well, almost 2 full
Mhm.
years. What was the hardest part for you? Was it the LTEs or those militaristic trainings? Was it
Mm.
just the gradual beating down over time? What's something that stands
Mm.
out to you?
Yeah, I think for me, probably the hardest was just, yeah, the mental and emotional toll it took on how I viewed myself. Even though on the one hand, they're giving you, like, these responsibilities and they're telling you, like, "You're elite, you're a world changer." They're saying that with one hand, and then with the other hand, they're cutting you down constantly. So it's very destabilizing because on the one hand, you're getting pumped up like, "Yeah!" And then the next chapel, it's like, "You're so sinful because you thought this thought, and you walked across the grass," and, like, just, like, completely nonsense things. And so it's just it was very that's very destabilizing, and especially think, like, over a long period of time, as you go through, like, life situations and things happen, and you learn to interpret those in a way where the blame is always on you,
Mhm.
no matter what the actual situation is. And, like, I think the more that compounds as you go through life, that becomes such a heavy burden to carry, and it's outside of reality as well. And so I think for me, like, that mental and emotional toll was really hard because I so wanted to be good.
One of the things I noticed with these groups, and I had it myself with Mormonism, is this complete and utter reliance on the company, the religion, the group, the leader, whoever it is,
Mhm.
because they create this fear of you
Yes.
can't do life without them. And you just showed through your examples, they provide you the problem. They tell you you are the problem and the solution is us.
Mhm.
So if you leave, you are gonna continue to be a problem with no
No
solution
solution.
and you're doomed, and that's terrifying. It's a scary place to live outside of those boundaries.
Mhm. And they make it terrifying on purpose so that you won't leave. Because they know if you leave, you're never coming back.
Mhm.
They know, so that's why they have to make it so hard to leave. And I think, I really appreciated what Danny said in the documentary about, like, the first time she left, how hard it was to go, like, you don't know how to live in the real world again after you've been in this super intense bubble where, like, all of your time is, like, scheduled for you, all of, like, there's this constant emotional, like, roller coaster that is not remotely connected to real life. Like, real life is much more calm and stable. And they are just constantly keeping us just emotionally turned around. And I think as that age group, you probably already have a lot of heightened emotions. So I mean, I think they fed into that in ways that were destabilizing me for longer periods of time than were definitely necessary. I mean, I think, and that's such a formative age for anybody, you know? I mean, I think
Yeah.
there's just so much you're trying to figure out about yourself and the world. And I mean, they're smart that when they get you there, they can get you for life. I mean, they're very smart about the ways that they recruit. They're very smart about the ways they target you and the ways they manipulate you without you even realizing it.
Mhm.
And I really appreciate that the documentary, I feel like, started to show that. And so that people can I think a lot of people carry a lot of guilt and shame about what they did or what they felt or who they became. And I really hope that people realize that they don't have to carry that anymore because this is something that was done to them. They were a victim, and even when we become complicit and we carry out things that harm other people as part of that, and we may have to make amends or whatever, but it doesn't mean that we're not also victims and that the shame for all of that needs to be placed on the origin. And the origin is the people who told us all this stuff. That's where the shame needs to go. And so I really hope everybody watching this, that's like, if they were ever part of the internship or Acquire the Fire, or they went, on these mission trips and did these crazy white supremacist colonial things, you don't have to carry the shame of that forever. You didn't know any better. And what I loved about Cindy's piece in the documentary, I just loved it so much. She said, like, once you know the truth, you can't go back. And so that's all you can ask from people is like, once you know the truth, now you can do something different. Now you can do something better. And if you didn't know before, that wasn't your fault,
And these are things that you started to recognize years after leaving, which is why you started the blog. So let's talk about how you got to that point.
Yeah. I even after leaving Teen Mania for several years, oh God, those were the darkest times of my life. Just, I thought I was to blame. I mean, this went awfully. It must have been my fault. And it wasn't until I was in college and they had like free counseling at the clinic. And I went to it one day and I told the lady everything. And I'll never forget as long as I live. Because she looked at me and she said, if I had been through all that, I would be depressed too. And it was the first time anybody suggested that it wasn't my fault.
Validation.
And it was literally like, oh, it's not, I didn't cause this. Like, it was the first time. And I was like, I don't know, 21, 22. And so that was definitely the beginning of the journey. It's been a very long and slow journey. Healing is not, boop, I'm healed.
Yeah.
It's layers. It's painful. It's, sometimes it's excruciating. But like, it's always worth it because the other side, once you get to that other side of that pain, like, so much better.
Yeah. Wow. How many years before you said there needs to be an outlet for people to talk about their experience?
Well, we had like the Honor Academy official alumni group, and
Mhm.
we would try to talk in there. And it wasn't even like really bad stuff, but just they don't allow any questioning, no matter how small. And
Yeah.
so I think it wasn't even. People think that like I had this, I'm gonna go get Teen Mania, like some kind of vendetta. It was like not like that at all. I had ended up going to some meeting in Dallas. I was living in the suburbs of Dallas at the time. I don't even remember how I heard about this, but I ended up, and it was just kind of like, here's how cults work or something. And I sat through that and I go, shit, I was in a
Huh.
cult. Damn.
Yeah.
And by that time I had gotten Dave Voice. I'd gotten Dave Hawes's voice out of my head by that time. I was still Christian. I was still, a believer. I was still going to church, but I recognized that extreme, like intense version, that wasn't what I wanted for my life anymore, or what I thought was accurate according to the Bible. And so going to that, I was like, oh my God, if I had known this 10 years ago, along with all of the other things I've learned since then, like this would have shortened my recovery so much, because especially I would say in like the first 3 years of my leaving Team Mania, nobody knew anything about spiritual abuse, coercive control, religious trauma. Those words were not even in the lexicon, unless like you were maybe like you were an academic or you were in the field, but the average person had no knowledge about that. There was nothing on the internet really about any of that. And so like, it took me forever to suss out what happened to me. What was that? Like, why do I feel like this?
Yeah.
And it was just like, I would go to therapists and nobody really had any answers, and a lot of the answers they had would sometimes make things worse because they don't really apply to people who have grown up completely unallowed to create a sense of self at all, to feel loved or to feel safe ever. Because if you're constantly worried about going to hell, how can you ever feel safe? And
Mhm.
so, like, most therapists are assuming you have the ability to feel safe and loved. I didn't. I think a lot of people don't. And so, if you don't even start, if you can't do nothing else is going to work if you don't feel safe and loved. Nothing. There's no therapy that works on somebody who feels in danger and unloved.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
because your nervous system isn't calm enough to allow you to get to the point of deconstruction.
exactly, exactly. And therapists, they don't know that because they don't understand the way that this kind of upbringing changes. It literally physically changes our brains. Like, you can see, I've done research. You can look at brain scans of people who have been spanked, verbally abused, neglected, emotionally abused. Their brains look different on a scan than people who didn't go through those experiences. So
Yep.
don't tell me that, just let it go. It's in the past. No, 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 no. Maybe for your brain, but my brain looks different than your brain on a scan. And I'm telling you, that's not going to work for me. And
Yeah.
so part of what I'm hoping to do is like let people know that it's not their fault that these pieces of advice are not working for them. The advice
Yeah.
is just bad. It's bad advice for them. And the other people don't know because those people have never lived our lives and they can't comprehend what it's like to live an entire life never feeling safe and never feeling loved. They can't even comprehend it. Good. I don't want them to. It's awful. But they can't give
Yeah.
us advice because they literally have never even seen this terrain that we're walking every day.
Well, and something I want to know is it may even look different for you. So you may feel like, oh no, I felt loved growing up, but was it conditional love?
Mhm, mhm,
Because that's something that a lot of us faced. I personally was lucky enough to be in a home where I knew that if I made a mistake that was a sin according to Mormonism, my mom was not going to cut me off.
mhm,
That was not the case for a lot of people, where if they did something wrong, love was withdrawn.
mhm.
And that's terrifying for a child who literally, and I say that literally needs connection to thrive and to survive. That's the scariest thing that you can do to a child. And that's what is
100%.
happening. That's what's happening in these high control groups and religious organizations that remove love
Mhm.
when something is done that they don't approve of. And so I just wanted to point that out because some people may not even realize that they grew up in an environment that had that
Yes.
as the love being taken away and thought,
Yes.
"No, I had love, but did you?" And really consider that.
Yes. 100%. I could not agree with you more. And especially when we learn that the love is conditional early, we self censor. Oh, I found out if like gay guys who are more effeminate maybe in their natural way of being, and they're just doing something as a child and they're getting reprimanded, they're getting shamed, they're gonna like naturally try to self-censor, right? And so that's one example of 1,000 different ways that that can manifest for you and however your personality
Mhm.
is wired. But like whatever it is that has been deemed unacceptable by our families of origin or our communities that we grew up in, that part of us didn't disappear. It didn't go away. It still exists inside of us and it's waiting to come out. It wants to live. And, as long as we repress and deny and avoid, we're disconnected from our own selves. And when you're
Mhm.
disconnected from yourself, you're disconnected from your own power, you're disconnected from your own ability to like discern the truth. And that's exactly what they want. That's the state they want us in. And so, I just encourage everybody to reconnect. Don't be afraid to reconnect with what's really inside you. They taught us to be afraid of ourselves. They taught me to be afraid of my own thoughts. That is like crazy fucked up. My thoughts aren't evil. So like teaching us to be afraid of our emotions. Like these are our power, our own thoughts, our own emotions. I shouldn't be afraid of those. Those are mine. Like if I'm afraid of those, what's the point of being alive? If my thoughts and my
Yeah.
emotions are all bad, what is literally the point of me being alive? To serve somebody else's vision and make them rich and make them powerful? No, thank you.
Those thought distortions come out in different ways. So, for example, when we're told that our emotions are wrong and bad and we suppress them and we're terrified of them, they will emerge, whether
Yes.
it's
In other
a
ways.
physical illness that they
Yes.
manifest, whether it is a mental state that you're unable to control at this point because things are just getting so bottled up and they're getting rattled around and there's no
Mhm.
safe outlet for them, they will come out eventually. And
Yep.
so that's the hard thing is because I just can't agree with a loving God who would make you a certain way, make you a human with
Mhm.
human thoughts, feelings, emotions, biology, behavior, and then demonize you for experiencing that.
Yes.
So, and that's where the the self-love goes away because we
Mhm.
learn to hate ourselves. And then even if we get out of this environment, even if we're away from the cycle of abuse of people telling us how we should think, be, feel, act, then we're still not in a place of self-love. And then we
Yes.
self-sabotage because
Yes.
we don't know what else to do. We're like, well, do I even
100%.
deserve this? Yeah.
Totally. I mean, you're singing my song. Like this is I think honestly, I think the number one problem in the entire country right now is people feel unloved. I think all of the boomers grew up in complete trauma from their World War II parents who just emotionally neglected them, and they grew up with no internal resources whatsoever, which is why they're so addicted to external image and money, and why they're completely, as a generation, incapable of having like solid emotional intimacy with their children. And so we have this whole generation's completely raised in trauma, and then it's trickling down through the generations. And so I think like those things are so ingrained. People don't even know they're not experiencing love. They're just surviving. So many people are like in survival state. I lived in survival state for 40 years and I didn't even know it. I didn't know there was another way to be. That was all my nervous system knew. Just in a survival state, fight, flight, fawn, freeze, rotating through those, just
Mhm.
trying to not go to hell, just trying to like not be bad, that's not living. That is not living at all. Living is way better. And, I think that like that's the point of healing. We don't heal so that we can take more abuse. We heal so we can live. So we can be free, so
Mhm.
we can do what we came here to do, be here who we came here to be, love who we came here to love, express what we came here to express. Otherwise, what's the point?
Yeah. And I think a lot of that begins with acceptance. So, the first step in unraveling a past or unraveling the way that your brain was wired and trying to rewire in certain ways is understanding and acceptance and consciousness. That's why we
Yes.
call it
I know
cults
I
to
love
consciousness.
I love the name.
Thank you, because
Acceptance, it sounds like an easy thing, but I remember in my
it's
mid-30s,
not.
the very first time I realized, "Oh, I'm gay." I cried for 4 hours, and then I forgot about it for 2 years. Because it was just
Whoa.
the idea that I was gay was so traumatic to me. Because gay is
Yeah.
bad, gay is evil, gay is hell, gay is, like, lose everything and everybody, and I'm straight and I'm married, and I like my husband, like, we get along great. The sex was always terrible, but, like, the rest of our marriage was
Wait,
always
you got
great.
married. You
Oh,
got
yeah. I
married.
was married for 15 years.
Okay.
So,
Whoa.
like, it cost me something, um, to follow my truth, but it actually didn't cost me anything because that life wasn't mine, the life that I was living. That wasn't really my life. I was just following the script that I thought I was supposed to follow. Okay, well, now I'm in my 20s, I guess I'm supposed to marry a guy. Let's do that
Yeah.
now. Like, that's
Yeah.
what you don't know to do anything else, especially as a kid, like, you just kinda do, like, "Okay, this is what everybody around me is doing, so I guess this is what I'm supposed to do."
Yep. So when did the blog happen? Was that in the middle of your marriage that you started deconstructing?
Yeah, that was, I'd been married for a few years and, I got really lucky. My ex-husband, we're still good friends. He moved to Canada here with me and, like, we don't live together or anything anymore. He has a girlfriend, I have a girlfriend, but we're still great friends. We do holidays together. So he was 100% been supportive of my entire deconstruction journey from the very beginning. And when I told him I was gay, he was like, "Oh, that makes a lot of sense." You know? "Oh, duh, okay. Yeah, I get it now." Um,
Uh-huh.
so, yeah, starting the blog, that was definitely a big catalyst. That was the catalyst for my deconstruction from Christianity at large, because that was the first time I ever became friends with anybody that wasn't a Christian, like, real friends, like, I actually trusted them and thought they had the right to their own thoughts and opinions. Like, I had friends that were non-Christian, but, like, in my mind, it was always like, "Well, they're wrong, they're lost, they don't know what they're talking about." Like, you're always discounting those people
Yeah.
because you're taught that nothing that they have to say is worth any value because it's not from Jesus, so
Yeah.
it's garbage. And so this was the first time that I didn't feel that about somebody, because I couldn't, because we shared the same pain, so I couldn't discount it. Um, and that's the other difficult thing is getting people out of this brainwashing, it's not quick, and we don't have a lot of time. So it's kind of that's tricky because making real relationships is something that unfolds, right? It doesn't just happen in like a day or a weekend. And so I feel really just like blessed and lucky that the people that joined the community in the beginning, like especially thinking of this one gay guy who joined really early, and we talked and called me, and I was like, look, I don't know if it's okay to be gay. Like, I don't know what I think about that. And like, I was just honest with him, and like, he was like, we were just honest. And he was like, that's okay. And he let me kind of talk about that with him. And I really appreciate him for that, because I don't know if I could do that for somebody now. Like, that's hard.
Yeah.
Those liminal spaces where you've got to reach out, and that's tricky, but you also got to do it to make those connections. And so I'm really thankful that people that were atheists, people that were gay, people that were really kind to me and willing to talk to me and willing to befriend me even in my fundamentalism. And that opened the door for sure. And that was through like slowly talking to them that I began to be like more open to like maybe there's other ways to be in the world, maybe. Like
Yeah.
it was slow. And finally I remember I was about 30. I was like, you know what? I always just take the Bible really seriously, and I always, I look to that like that's if it's in the Bible, I know it's true. That's the authority. But I don't really know like where the Bible came from, or like I've heard stories like, oh, God preserved it over time and blah blah blah. But I'm going to go look into that and and it's really going to strengthen my faith. I want to strengthen my faith and find out like where the Bible came from, so I know. Spoiler alert. Sorry. But that for me did not strengthen my faith. It did the absolute opposite. And it shocked the hell out of me. I didn't want to deconvert. I did not. Like for like 6 months, I like listened to every podcast. I was trying to look for any argument to stay a Christian. Because that was my whole identity. It was like I didn't know anything else. And so I finally just got to the point where for me, just the evidence, I couldn't say like, for sure God sent this book, you guys, for sure. And so that was the point where like, okay, well, if it's not for sure, I can't base my whole life on, like, so then I kind of went through of, well, now what? Atheism. Let's try that for a while. It's like you kind of, you pinball off something and then you do the opposite of that thing, right? Because you're like, I hated that. I'm going to do the opposite. And you're still just reacting to the original trauma. You're not really healing it. So
Yeah.
that's part of the process, right? And so kind of I did that for a little bit and was like militant atheist for a hot minute. And I mean, not to anybody, just in my heart. But you know, I think like there was no healing in atheism. Like it was more of just nobody's going to trick me over here with something that's not true. It was more of like that.
A safe place.
Yeah, it felt that way. And so I think I probably needed a safe place where I felt like nobody's trying to come after me. I don't want to feel like prey. Because I feel like there was like a very prey predator relationship with the church and with like spiritual authority and spiritual leadership. And I didn't want any of that. And so, yeah, so I went sort of like just went all over the place trying to figure things out. And it wasn't until I realized I was gay and then started to actually accept that about myself that I made any progress in my healing. Like I was just numb for like several years. I remember my husband would be like, "Are you happy?" And I'd be like, I mean, I'm not sad. I'm not mad. I guess I'm happy. Like, but I was just numb. That was the only way to disconnect from my true self and live this evangelical straight woman's life that wasn't mine. And it wasn't until like that change happened. That's when like the real healing started. Not just like mentally understanding, but like experientially understanding, embodied understanding of freedom and peace and healing and lightness. Because I didn't get any of that really from deconverting. I mean, what I got was, oh, I don't have to do these heavy mental gymnastics and I don't have to take all of the shame, but I didn't get self-love. I didn't get vitality. And also you don't know what exists if you've never seen it or touched it or tasted it.
That's a journey, and I'm sure it's still evolving.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah. So when you had this blog and these stories started pouring in, did that shake you at all hearing
Mm.
people's traumas and horror stories in the middle of your deconstruction?
Yeah, I had no idea how bad it had gotten at Teen Mania. I left right before it turned, I mean, into the ESOL and the heavy militarization. I left right before that happened. And so I had no
Mm.
idea. I had heard like rumors, oh, these people got put in a coffin at this retreat, but it was always very silent because once you went through ESOL, you weren't allowed to talk about it because they didn't want new interns to be spoiled. So you could only talk about it with people who had already been through it, even amongst the
Oh, that's
alumni.
so culty. I
I know.
hate that.
I know, even
Oh my
amongst the alumni.
gosh. It just reminded me of something that I think I've talked about it once or twice, but I have to talk about it.
Yeah.
It was something that my ex was going through. We were, well, ex now, but we were together. We were Mormon. I was 19. It was right before I left the church. And he went and did this super culty, don't know what it was, like 3-day whatever, like where they break you down and horrible thing, like just super brainwashing in a condensed amount of time. And then when he got back, he was really weird. And I'm like, what
Mm.
happened to you, dude? And he's like, you need to experience it for yourself, and I can't tell you anything or it will ruin your experience. I'm all,
Yes.
yeah, I'm not going to that. Like, whatever that was, I want no part in this because whoever you came back as, not feeling it. Like, it was
Yes.
really eerie and weird. And I remember going to his graduation thing, and it was in southern Utah, and they're up there like crying and they have sashes on. I'm like, where am I? And they're saying these culty chants, and it
Yeah.
was so, but that just triggered that memory in me where you're not allowed to tell people or it will ruin the experience. You
Right.
mean scare them off because it's psycho. Like, they
Yes.
shouldn't be doing this stuff.
Yes, exactly. And look, and they're giving sashes, they're giving, look, you earned, look what you did, like giving you validation and approval. And like, what
Yeah.
kid doesn't want validation and approval from their leadership? Every kid wants that. So, it's just preying on those things. It's awful. I'm glad you didn't go to that retreat.
Me too.
But
I did not need more culty things in my
right,
life.
right. We don't need to add to the trauma. But
Yeah.
I was, so people started writing me their stories, a lot of which I was like, yeah, that's tracks. I have no trouble believing that. And then the crazy stuff would come in with the cockroaches and the coffins and I was like, what is happening? And the more I got, I didn't even expect, honestly, it wasn't supposed to be a website that like was ongoing. It was just kind of like I was just like put up a bunch of info and then just leave it for anybody who wanted to find it. I wasn't planning on like maintain. I didn't have a lot to say. It was just kind of like, oh, here's what I
Mhm.
learned. Boom, done. And I just put an email associated with it in case anybody wanted to reach out. And to my surprise, people started like reaching out and sending me stories. And so I started posting them and then more people started. And then it just became this thing that like was a part of my life every single day. There was a new post. There was like for several years, it was like very, very ongoing, like new comments, new posts every single day. And so once I saw like how widespread it was, and this is the thing, they want us to stay silent so that everybody thinks they're the only person going through it.
Mhm.
And that's part of the don't say anything negative about Team Mania pledge. Because if you start talking amongst each other and you go, oh, me too, me too, me too, me too, then you start to realize, oh, it's not my fault. And this is wrong. And this is bad. And these people need to change. Right. And so that's where I was coming. I was like, oh, like I already knew like it wasn't all my fault, but like, oh, in like even a bigger way, like, oh, this is like beyond just a few of us. This isn't just like 10% or something of the internship. This is like a lot of people and it's systemic and it needs to be addressed. And at the time, I really, truly, honestly thought if I just tell them, they'll fix it. Like
Yeah.
they must not realize. Like I truly, truly believe that. And so I was really surprised at their reaction. And then I think everybody they basically they put on like a whole fake investigation. They did all this stuff to try to put us off, but without ever apologizing, without ever validating anybody and saying like, "Yeah, you did go through that and we're sorry and we're going to change it." They would never do that to anybody. If they had just done that, the whole thing would have gone away. They'd probably still be in business today.
Micah, the recording of the call where you're like, "Hey, I just want to bring this to your attention, and this is what's going on." And the response was, "Well, I don't know anything about any of that. What is your goal here, Micah? It sounds like you're just out to get me." I was like, ugh, barf. That eye roll moment of just, why are you persecuting me?
Right? Oh,
What?
totally,
You're not the
totally.
victim here.
Totally. No, but that's how that was always the line, like, that I was the bad person persecuting them, coming after them, whatever, and, yeah, I was glad that you showed that my whole interaction with him is, like, probably 10 minutes or something. It's quite, because I had several questions for him, and I was not I was putting him under the microscope, and you see how squirmy he is. Like, they won't take responsibility for anything. So, once I realized that, that's when I went to the press because
You said, "Hell no.
I was like, you're
Hold
not
my
gonna keep
beer."
doing this. Like, I'm not gonna allow it. Like, they're rolling through vomit, you guys. Like, come on. Like, I can't believe I have to make a bigger deal about this. How is this not obvious to everybody? But once the news finally took the story, and I emailed so many reporters before I got a bite, like, people did not want to touch a famous Christian ministry. It wasn't like you would think people would be chomping at the bit for a story like that, but they were not. I thought I was really lucky that the reporter that I got, he got it, and he did like a 3-night expose, and that
Mm,
was the beginning of the greater
the
media
end.
cycle that we needed, because people can't believe it unless you show it to them. That's the thing, right? Like, even what Cindy was saying in the documentary, she's like, "This stuff is crazy. There's no way this happened." But it did. Like, and that's the thing, is they
Yeah.
make it so crazy that you sound like a crazy person. Just recounting the actual truth of what actually happened makes you sound crazy. Because why
Yeah.
would they do that? They're a big famous ministry. All of the main people support them. All the mega churches support them. All evangelical publishing, everybody supports them. So you must be wrong. It must have been, like a one-off thing. You must have deserved it. There was no like concept of, no, the way everybody is doing this is completely wrong and bad and evil.
Yeah. We talked to Cindy, and I'm glad that she connected us to you. It was so interesting hearing her perspective on why she was so tunnel visioned, and her sole purpose, the reason she hired her, was to silence you. And I was like, what? And it's cool having her come out the other side and realize, oh no, this isn't right. And then she was also part of exposing them to get them completely out of business. I love that a blog that you created to share survivor stories ultimately took down this multi-million-dollar corporation. It's just so good.
Yeah, it's I mean, and a lot of it is just their own hubris. They just thought, authoritarians, they feel like they are untouchable because they create these little bubbles for themselves where they are untouchable.
Yeah.
And that makes other people scared because they feel untouchable. And so it's sort of a, self-perpetuating sort of a self-perpetuating system. And
Mhm.
so, like, even when I was on the front page of Google, when you would search Teen Mania, they were not taking it seriously. Was like, "You're lost, you guys." Like, I mean, parents are reading this blog and being like, pulling their kids' applications. I mean, I have stories where, they would go to the Acquire the Fire, they come back with all their lead cards for everybody that says they're interested in the Honor Academy. They start calling them. Well, in the meantime, they've gone home and they've looked it up on the internet. They're not interested anymore,
Yeah.
and they are not even taking your calls. They wouldn't even take the calls. And, like, the director of that department was pissed about it because, like, how are you gonna recruit people if they won't even take your phone calls?
Yep.
So they just had their own hubris and thought that they could get away with anything. I think they truly thought they could I mean, they're filming themselves torturing children.
Right.
So, I mean, that tells you their mindset.
Yep. The first documentary that came out did make a dent.
Yeah.
Were you a part of that documentary?
Yes, I was a part of the first documentary. I was the one that, connected with the sort of the producer and sort of, like, told them the story and got them interested in it, and they came out and did the film, and that was actually a really big because it was the first national coverage of Teen Mania. All the other media coverage had been, like, in a local paper or a local TV station,
Yeah.
and this was the very first national thing. And this again, more hubris. Ron Luce, swear to God, literally sent out, like, an hour or 2 hours before it aired, sent out to his whole mailing list. Hey, everybody, pray for us. There's this documentary is about to be on MSNBC. And I'm like, you just told everybody to go watch it. They probably wouldn't have even known about it. Like,
Oh, that's great.
yeah. So some of it is just people are blinded by their own pride and their own hubris. And so they make dumb mistakes like that.
hmm
And we'll capitalize on them.
And they're now out of business, but I hear that he is trying to resurrect something even in other countries.
Yeah, he's a one-trick pony. He doesn't have another thing to do, so he's just taking this to audiences that haven't heard the scandal yet and can't defend themselves. And that's, I mean, the truth is, like, a lot of it's just like the priests in the Catholic Church that just get shuffled to a different parish when they abuse somebody. It's just we're just moving around. We're not changing anything. We're not stopping the abuse. We're just changing the location of the abuse. That's all that's happening.
Yeah. Ugh, that's annoying. Well, I hope that enough people see this documentary and become aware of it.
Me too.
So this has been great. Thank you for sharing your experiences.
You're welcome. Glad to be here. It's good to talk about it. Appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, I need your Linda listen moment.
Oh,
Sassy
right.
statement or something inspirational. It's up to you.
Get comfy. No, Linda, listen. I know you feel shamed all the time. You feel guilty. You feel like you're not good enough. Feel like you're not worth anything. All those are lies. Every single one. And you weren't born with any of them. They were put on you after you got here. And I want you to find what you were born with, what you came here with. Because no baby is born hating themselves. Everybody has to learn that. And so once you unlearn that and you find out what you were born with, what your unique spirit, gifts, talents, expression is, then if everybody can find that, what kind of an awesome world could we have if we all got rid of our mental prisons and we stepped outside of them and we became our true authentic selves? That's the world I want to live in. So that's what I encourage every single person to do.
That's beautiful. I love it. And that's
Thank
what
you.
you're doing. What brings you
Yes.
peace and happiness now?
Oh, wow. Well, I live in Vancouver now. It's a gorgeous city. Like, I love going out to the forest, walking my dog. We have just incredible nature here, incredible beaches. So I feel really connected to nature and wildlife. So I really, really enjoy that quite a bit. And what else? Just living as who I'm supposed to be. It feels so good to not have to put every thought that comes into my brain through the filter of, is this okay with Jesus? Is this okay with the Bible? Is this okay with my parents? Is this okay with my church? Is this okay with my pastor? Is this okay with whoever? Oh, that's exhausting, you know? So I just feel like I'm just trying to live in each day and become more of who I'm supposed to be each day, and just as that unfolds. So I'm just enjoying that journey.
I love it. Well, thank you so much. Where can people find you and support you?
Yes, you can find me on social media at mix.micaringo. That's mx.mica, MICA, RINGO. You can find me at my website, micaringo.com. If you have some lies that you're believing that are constricting you, that you want to get rid of, that you want to expel, that you want to talk through, I'm going to be having a course on September 2nd called Soul Purge, Vomit Up the Filth, where we're going to be going through and getting rid of these lies, expelling them, and finding our true selves. So if that sounds like something that you're interested in, come take a look at my website and join me. I'd love to have you a part of it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here. Do you have any other final thoughts before we go?
Thank you, Shalise. Thank you for doing this work that you're doing. This is so important. I know for me, one of the things that really helped me was hearing other people's stories, reading other people's stories when I was like right in the middle of my journey. I think it's just so important for us to have examples of what it's like and that you can do it. It's possible. So thank you for contributing that to the world and for being your awesome, authentic self in the way that you're doing. So thank you.
Thank you. Yes. And the same for you, being a starter and paving the way for these people. I mean, that was long before cults were popular. So you were really doing the Lord's work, if I may.
Keep it up.
Oh, yes. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to leave those words of encouragement down below for Mica. It means so much to us and our guests, of course, boosts the algorithm. Go watch the documentary, Shiny Happy People 2. Learn more from other people's experiences. We have so many interviews coming out around the guests who are on Shiny Happy People too. So stay tuned for that. Subscribe, hit the bell so you don't miss any episodes. The best way to support the podcast is interacting with the post in any way. You can support further at patreon.com/cults2consciousness, or you can get some merch at cults2consciousness.com. And yeah, make sure to check out all those other interviews that we are doing on this topic. I will link 2 more down here below. And until next time, follow your highest excitement, be conscious, and be well.